pimping, mad because they can't truly fuck with me based on what I did. Because I ain't doing. See, that's an old trick. That bitch old as hell down. When that shit started taking off, that's what's left of that full moon up there. That plan, they come across and say, look, they start saying this heavily in the 90s. They start saying words to the effect of, look, I don't like all them bright lights back here. I ain't know all them bright lights back here. So, they're like BET when they first started coming on. They used to have a little problem like that on the set. I don't like all them bright lights. Yeah, they very bright, ain't they? They get on my nerves. Hey. So, anyway, it wasn't like that last time. I ain't paying no attention. So, in the 90s, they started saying basically this. Woo-woo-woo, like, you'll hear comments, Source Magazine, somewhere. You ain't had no Facebook, you ain't had no social media like that, internet. You ain't had the internet. So you would either hear it, somebody around you talking, or in Source Magazine or something like that, where you hear this stuff you might hear in the comment section online now, coming straight from the street, straight out somebody's mouth, just any random person. For instance, people were saying Snoop Dogg ain't ready to pimp it. Some people saying Snoop Dogg ain't ready to crip it. Stuff like that. So around that same time, Hollywood started saying, the film industry, the casting, they looking for people who really been to prison to play the part of somebody in the movie of someone who been to prison. Now it's a pro to that and it's a con to that. The pro is that a person's past won't stop them from going that far. That's good. The problem with that was that a lot of people who had talent, especially in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of people who had talent and who took rap serious, a lot of them didn't have records. Some of them had never been to jail. Definitely hadn't been to prison. Some of them had been convicted. Some of them did, but a lot of them didn't. So when the support, the financial support started to come for that hardcore street rap, now you got this edict of sorts that goes out that says, yeah, but you ain't never killed nobody, so why you rapping about killing? You know, that kind of thing. Why you rapping about the penitentiary you ain't never been? As if you had to actually go to these places or go through these things to have knowledge of it, to be able to speak on it. First of all, if you can rap, you can rap. You can make a song, you can make a song. You can write your own hooks, chorus, and bars, and co-produce or produce, and everybody like the song. That's what you need to be concerned with. But they think they slick. What they were doing, because by now they know through statistics, through scientific study, that social engineering and scientific study, they know that many of the youth of the 80s and the 90s are like Jerry's Kid, Latchkey Kids, foster kid, all this type of stuff, single parent, headed household, nuclear family, don't know the father, generation gap type thing, being raised by the radio and the TV and the film industry type of thing. So they know that these children are very impressionable, gullible, naive, And they're telling young, especially the boys, young boys in the urban areas that's gonna be poor white trash, brown pride, black pop. They telling them, if you ain't never killed nobody, ain't nobody gonna wanna hear your bars. Cause you trying to be hard and all this, but you ain't never shot nobody. You don't even carry a gun. So they telling, so what's happening, they are putting into the mind of the children, I gotta go out here and get like gangsta, guru, just to get a rep. This is right when they phasing out. I see the Ducatillas talk about this. Chief Rod, Dane Calloway, they talk about how they was phasing out that positive so-called conscious community, positive black power, all that kind of stuff rap into something that was far more sinister than even that, because that has a sinister spin on it as well, which I'm not gonna get into that right now because I want to keep this train of thought. So Guru, Gangstar, is saying just to get a rep. It's a message. You know, it's heavy on the message side and light on the street, hardcore, edgy, right? Just keeping it real with the fact this something need to be talked about to the youth. Right now, Gangstar is taking up the responsibility with that LOG and the Bulldogs, be a father to your child. It takes a village to raise a child. So he's gonna be one of the elders to say something. So just to get a rep was touching on that point, how there's too many people in the streets doing stuff just to get that reputation. Now, to be honest, that was a key thing to do back in the day. But like Luke Skywalker wrote in his book, back in the day, the U.S. Inquisitionist agents of Rome, who people call police, some people even elect to call them OFFICE ... But a lot of times we had to settle our own disputes because they were in predominantly white areas and protecting corporate interests that were owned by predominantly white board members or whatever you call, whatever going on in that corporation at the top. So in the hood, in the slums, in the ghettos, or in so-called black areas, a lot of times the police didn't even come. That's why Flavor Flav made that song 911 as a joke. Because you call when you need them. Where's the cop? When you need them, kind of, that's where that term come from. You call, sometimes they might never come. The ambulance might never come. A lot of times you got to find a vehicle and take a pregnant woman to the hospital. They ain't like that. Matter of fact, a lot of people knew how to do live birth anyway. You had the midwife thing going on and all kind of stuff. We still had a lot of culture. So anyway, Guru pointed that out just to get a rep. Because what was happening, that ghetto informant program, which is pretty old, way older than the 80s and the 70s. That ghetto informant program, matter of fact, I think it's before COINTELPRO was developed. They already had a ghetto informant program. And I think I'm saying that right, GIP. Ghetto informant program. So it wasn't as strong. So when you start talking about Don King and people like that, and before his time, a lot of times a person's reputation was very, very strong. Having a reputation helped a lot, a whole lot. But as time went by, especially in the 80s, especially, in the 70s we saw, in the late 60s we saw how that could be used against you. When you study what they did to King Larry Hoover, eventually they did to Angel Bay, Chief Malik, and many others, Black Panthers and stuff like that. They began to use that against them and start putting that RICO in there, racketeering in there and all that. And now what was help you catapult you to the top and solidify your place was what was used to take you down. So many of the elders, when I was like 5 and 6, I'm born in 73. In 5 years after I'm born in 78. So in the late 70s, early 80s, guys who were in their 20s, 30s, and 40s and up were giving us keys on how to move forward. Like they say, idiot box. One thing about television, what makes it so bad when we growing up in the 80s and beyond, we don't have anyone there to narrate for us, to point out certain things. With young minds like that, they're searching, looking just like any animal, any species, they learn from watching the older animals of the same species, primarily. Before you know it, they might be a better hunter than every bird in that flock or whatever. That's how it goes. With humans, you gotta be careful. As time moves on with humans, we begin to adapt and evolve at a more rapid rate. A lot of things that were successful for somebody before us probably won't be successful for us. You go into the war colleges, West Point and things like that. That's all they do. They pour over old tactics. Some of them they implement, but not only do they execute, they also design ways to confound, to put down, to contain, to stop. Right? So the elders were telling us keys. It got so bad in the 80s, the best advice was to give it up. Do not do crime. It was hard to accept that. Because in all actuality, what we're going on, we live it in the past. Our grandparents, our parents, our uncles, neighbors, older neighbors, and a lot of people still doing, from what we see. But what they used to always say, read. Read. Brothers did not tell me to read case law until I was about cased up myself. It was something it could be dealt with because I didn't do it. But still, I'm cased up. And they started to tell me, look, man, case law, case history. I'm in the Southeast, Southern Reporter. You go into that, because that's like pretty much to sit down in one spot and get some very, very key information. That's one of the best things to do. This is a result of a lot of people who put in a lot of hours and footwork, who actually came down to the courthouse and submitted information on a certain subject in a certain type of indictment, right? So you got all these different people submitting historical accounts that could be very helpful for you. Now, since the tactics they were using could land you in a position where it's all over. No more chance to do anything in the free world. Unless maybe you pour over the transcripts, the records and minutes of your case, and try to find maybe technical errors, procedural errors, things like that. You might get a case thrown out. Something like that. Or maybe some substantial evidence was withheld. Something you gotta find with that case that you can put it back in the court or have it thrown out. Retried or have it thrown out. And if it's retried, hopefully for you, if you deserve to get out and you want to get out, hopefully that will exonerate you. You'll win. Now, you never get that type of information on the streets. You gotta be like a gnat with the capability to move like a jet fighter plane, to be all in everybody's business and hear every conversation. That's impossible. Even police have a hard time when they using bugs and wiretaps and people wearing wires and they video surveillance, and they still trying to piece this shit because it's just too much information they don't have. So the average person of us, we don't have the resource the police have. We just minding our business. Whatever come to our ears, that's what we hear. Whatever come to our eyes, that's what we see, and that's it. And that's a day. Right now I'm standing in a spot, I can't tell you what's going on north, east, west, or south. But it's on and popping. There's all type of things going on. So now, back to the industry. They trying to get us, especially the youth. But the problem was a lot of older guys were very underdeveloped. The father wasn't there. Sometimes the grandfather wasn't there. The schools had been stripped down. I'm born in '73. So by the time we get up in age, it's less things in there like wood shop and welding and stuff. It's less. And on top of that, we were raised by people who didn't depend on the school. We were raised by people, when they were young, most black people did all the work anyway. So you grew up with the blacksmith, with the welder and blacksmith, with the mason, brick mason, with the carpenter. This was all rolled, the plumber, the electrician, the roofer. Average man could do all of that. They could do enough of that job to at a point, if they had 2 people or something like that, the job would be done. And sometimes the person is so skilled, them other people, they pretty much just manual labor, wheelbarrow, hauling stuff, go up the ladder with shingles for the roof, stuff like that. But the man is the one actually, you had people like that who could actually do a job themselves, and no matter what the job was, but just needed manual labor. I've known too many people like that personally. And that came from when they say make yourself useful. An idle mind is a devil workshop. This was the culture of black people. You don't sit around and watch cartoons, right? Play with coloring books and G.I. Joe men, Star Wars men, all this foolishness, and wrestling men. WWF had Hulk Hogan dolls and all this kind of stuff, and you ain't digging a ditch. You don't know how to take a tree down properly. Go get firewood. Go get water from the well or from the river. All this type of stuff that they grew up doing, because they still had possession of land. The original source of 99.999% of the wealth is land, air, water, sea. Now, we growing up, hamburger helper, they came out with the microwave. We too dumbed down. So now, for them to take things out of the school after too many of the men were not instilling in the young men trades. It was still happening. People my age, on the car with a mechanic that's older, teaching them about the cars. The ones that's not hardly on the road no more though. And things like that. You would have them probably landscaping, brick mason, laying tile. Yeah, I went to school with some people like that. But I come from a background where my family built this state, the land of the flowers, so-called Florida. My family built this state. Urban engineering, from the sticks, the swamps, mosquitoes, crocodiles, alligators, pythons, all that there. No asphalt roads, no concrete sidewalks, that type of thing. No turnpike, no I-95, no I-75, all that. No, 112 on 826 West. No, we ain't had that. We had swamps. We got bears in Florida, especially North Florida. That's connected sitting right there to Georgia, Alabama. Pumas, mountain lions, you know, and whatnot. I think coyotes probably had jaguar at one time. Now, we took that raw wilderness, some of the worst places to be is in the swamp. It's nothing underneath you. You don't tell you what you step into, right? And we made it into what people know now, one of the most, South Florida is one of the biggest tourist attractions in the world, even right now today, competing with places like Dubai, who got a lot of their money to build it up from the U.S. so-called United States of America. Taxpayer money. Now, anyway, you had too many young boys who didn't have the wherewithal to start to make a living, so that when they date a young girl, babies having babies, they used to start saying in the 80s, impregnate, she conceives, he can start giving money to her and her mother, because a lot of times the dynamic will be the children, the mother, maybe a grandmother, maybe grandmama, granddaddy, but granddaddy pretty old. You know, his SSI or whatever check or something like that might be had a lot to do with how the bills getting paid, stuff like that. Going on, the different dynamics of different families from these, from a culture that went from a culture in a village and whatnot in a nation to what we had in the 80s. I was trying to think about the terminology they used for this loose-knit so-called the hood. Not a neighborhood, but the hood. Now it's the hood. So you had a lot of dysfunctional families. And one of the main things that just need to be done, just family members just need to pull together. That's all. Many of the elders, they were raised like that. But there's various different reasons why people started to kind of not work that. Some of it was government intervention, interference. If you look at Rosewood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, stuff like that, a lot of that had to do with it. When you look at the Indian Removal Act, when they talking about what became black people and colored people, like somebody pointed out just recently, I think it's Katana had to push it. Need to call me, Queen. I think that was her post that pointed out at one point, if a person looked like me or darker, broad nose, broad lips, or talked in this to what they call the United States of America, that part of the Maghreb al-Aqsa, right? Just above the Yucatan, just below Canada and Alaska, right there. California on the west, right? East Coast over here, New York and all that down to Florida. If you claim to be an Indian, they'll lock you up. You had other methods. If you was like a chief that had a lot of knowledge of how to run a nation and oversee all of the operations of running a nation. Chief don't do it all, but he can oversee it. They're hanging. That's a lot where the hangers came from. Chief Rob was going in heavily on that. I see the Duke of Tia, Dane Calloway, they all in. You listen long enough, they can start getting into that, getting very, very detailed. Dates, names, events, and things like that. Now that had pretty much everything to do with it. Because I remember when I was growing up, because everybody now saying something about, well, not everybody, many people saying, well, I was told we was Indians or something along the line. So we grew up with that. But everybody weren't told that by their own people. But we all know somebody in that elementary school who said, oh yeah, my high wavy, I'm part Indian, or something like that. They might have said Blackfoot, Cherokee, something like that. Right? And Then you had the little holes in the stories of the lies in the textbook, because there'll be some truth in there. So you put stuff like that together. I came out the Nation of Islam, born into the Nation of Islam. So many teachers of Master Father Muhammad / Dad, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad or Elijah Poole Bey, you know, they make it very simple. So that when you have this simple basics that they gave you, and you go into the books and you listen to the school teacher, you say somebody lying in this goddamn school. Once you know or believe or know that the Nation of Islam teaching right. If I'm the original man, brown, yellow, especially, black, brown, yellow, and red, right? And the grafted devil is man-made, right? A kind of man, mankind. But I'm man, womb man, and child, right? That means between us and the grafted Yakubian experienced devil, we are indigenous to the earth. It's nowhere where someone takes precedence over us. But when the white supremacy thing, quote unquote, was flipped on us, according to our Cedric Ducatillas, you talking like 1700, mid 1700s. We go to school in the 1900s and we get their school books. And the way it looks like, okay, crackers from Europe, they went around the world and kicked butt. They won the war, so now we got to listen to them because they beat our army, kind of thing. So until we can raise an army and beat them, you know, and then you had the Black Power. I'm born in 73. So the Black Power era just went out, right? By the time I'm born, I think they just got King Larry Hoover. By the time I'm born, I think King Larry Hoover is in for good and ain't been out since. I think it was 72. Angel Bago go in and get out, then he gonna go back in again, I think like 81 or something like that. He got to get like another 10-year run, right? And they dealt with him. You got Edward Charles Bay, they were just talking about the other day, was with the El Rukas and P Stone, because the P Stone had kind of fractions off. So you got all this stuff that had just happened. This is why the elders were talking to us the way they did. Number one, you're not gonna have them in court saying they are a gang leader. And they told us to go do this, and no, it's not, no. So when they would come around us, which was very brief, for me, my personal experience, they would say something and they'd go. Now I said before, I bonded with them like strongly because I was always more mature than people my age. So from 1 year old to like definitely like 7. In Atlanta, a lot of niggas smoked the bitches and hoes, Benson and Hedges cigarette. Cool, Salem Light. All them is green and white, mint green, stuff like the packs. Right? Mad Dog 2020, Night Train, Thunderbird, right? The ones who probably pockets wasn't all that right. You know, that's cheaper. Naughty Head, that's Seagram Gin, right? I remember when Rio Nitty on Ice came out, or got popular commercials out. Pink Champagne, popular commercial popping, right? So that crowd is the ones who would say something, but a lot of times that was more toward what you call bourgeois. But the problem is not so much of these bougie niggas. What's happening is that the system had come down so hard on the community that it was time to, like we started saying, like in the 90s, throw your hands up like a vet. So in the 70s, they was already saying, they wasn't using that terminology, but they were pretty much saying, you know, they used to, scared straight. They used to show us scared straight. So on Scared Straight, they'll take little boys into prison, and some prisoners to talk to them. A lot of times these boys is delinquent. They skipping school, truancy officer following them, going to juvenile, back then your parent could just come get you, take you on. A lot of guys weren't killing back then, little boy. So your parent pick you up for juvenile. By the time I started going in 93, Miami-Dade County, too many young guys were getting direct fire. UYO, meaning a youth offender, juvenile, but your crime is so bad, murder, they gonna try you as an adult. So that started becoming more popular. Now this time period is like 9 Trey, right before, to the best of my knowledge, they started doing habitual violent offender and habitual offender. And then I used to think that was the same time, but no, come to find out, I think Jeb Bush did 1020 life. And that's a little later than I thought about 94. They come a little bit behind 94. So we talking like 99, 2000, something like that. I gotta look at that again. I was talking to Jamal at the gas station about that. I gave him the wrong date. But Jeb Bush made sure 1020 life came. California already had 3 strikes out in the 90s. We started doing HBO, HVO. Should have been 90. Yeah, I should have been 94. I don't think 93. Could have been 93. I just didn't know it. But 94 definitely should have been like 94. And they, no, not Snatch. Snatch game time is the old game time system. You could get that snatch by outside charge in prison. Game time is for every month you gotta do, they can give you free days, like take days off. That's game time for good behavior, right? So if you get in trouble, they can say, no, you ain't gonna get them days. You're gonna have to do all them days. That's called snatching game time. But not that. That's old. What they did was change the guidelines so that anybody get less game time around that same time. 94, 95, maybe a little later. Because I know when Ricky Adams died in Stockade, one of his good friends was complaining about HBO, HVO, game time change. So this, we talking 2000. They had Bub on the 5th floor. They had Corey Smith on the 5th floor. That's that same run. When the Southern Philly album is on pause because I'm in jail. Right? And Ricky Adams' partner, I forgot his name. Short, brown, dark brown skin. He say, man, he had some M1s in his past. Man, I could do, he say, no, he say, you could do it, get convicted of a murder and get out in 4 years. Especially if the victim was a regular black person without a lot of status and clout, like a judge or whatever. It was like you get off a murder 4 years. Because see, what you have is a dead person that can't speak for themselves. And that's the one that really knows. So you got the live person, if they got any kind of sense, can happen if they can't be, they dead to the right. But if you got any kind of sense, that can get mitigated down like 3 years. So we coming, it's evolving the ways they dealing with us, because what happened was they got in their mind to combat everything they was doing, especially in the 60s. It started coming to a head in the 60s. To combat that progress that it had culminated to by the 60s, early 70s, into the 70s, the workers' union, what they did, they outsourced. Used to work at places like Tasty Cake and send children to college, your children. Take care of more than one woman that has children from you, right? You probably a dropout yourself, but you can accumulate, because what? Remember now, when the factories were here, we made things built to last, made in USA. So it's the 80s, early 80s, 70s, but you can have a car from the 40s or the 30s. A car from the 40s, a car from the 50s, a car from the 60s, a car from the 70s, right? trucks and whatnot, boats, planes, homes. You can have homes that you lease out, rent out, right? You can flip houses, sell, real estate. Everything was easier back then when it come down to rags to riches. A penny or was it a penny, a nickel, a dime, a quarter went further then than now. See? So not only did the wealth start in our hands, if we had been stripped of wealth some type of way, we could shoot to the top if that's what we want to do. It wasn't nothing to it but to do it. So they're trying to figure out a way, and they came up with, devise all these ways to keep us from being able to come up like that without them attached to our comeuppance. And usually when it's like that, it's so lopsided, like the average rap music record industry 360 did, which I think that translates into all genres of rap. Pretty much they play with them like that for the most part. You know, where it's like, it's an illusion. You end up like somebody like Tevin Campbell. I mean, I remember a time when Tevin Campbell first came out, Bone Thugs and Harmony. You know, you got all this talent. It's like they shot to the top. They everywhere, and you think, in your heart, you think, okay, I ain't got to worry about them. I used to try to tell people about them and be like, well, kind of anxious, but not, they made it. So, you know, they good. They good. I ain't, you know, they good, you know. But all the while, what's really happening is the games they play in the 360 deal. I'm not going to break that down right now. So now, what's happening is our generation had less at our disposal. Around like 81 is when Niggas for Life got on, if I'm not mistaken. 81 when Niggas for Life got on in Harlem. So now the younger guys are kind of like coming into what they call, I don't even want to use that term, but the cooked powder, right? Try not to say certain stuff. That's that era of the cooked powder. A lot of people didn't know how to get in that form. So that way, the power of that whole trade was consolidated to the people who could make it happen. Okay? It had a lot of power because you had to go to somebody like that first to even get it. Then turn around and try to sell it. If you was foolish enough to try it, you also had to try to battle that pull, so you won't become addicted yourself and lose everything you got. If you one of those type, because that did that to a lot of people. So now that comes in right around the same time when all the older black men ain't treating us like they was treated when they was growing up. They stayed on some type of work camp with their uncles and fathers and grandparents and great grandparents, right? It didn't matter if it was your family or not. Black folk, you always family. But you're gonna learn something. It's common sense. I have to impart all my skills, because when I get back to walking like this, going to the bathroom myself and all that, I need y'all to be able to do all this shit I did for y'all. I need to be warm in the winter, cool in the summer. I need to be fed, I need to be clean, in bed by a certain hour. Surrounded by my loved ones. Imparting them skills is going to ensure that. Right? Every building is intact. Every motor conveyance runs properly. My clothes should be adequate. My food should be decent and nourishing. Right? Served properly. We have to impart that as men and women and they didn't do that. They left it up to the schools. Now the school system want to undermine, especially so-called Black America. They about took everything. A lot of the corporations we worked for those top figures, a lot of times they stole the patents. They stole inventions. They stole assembly line techniques and all kind of stuff from the average black person. But now some kind of way, they damn near got a monopoly on the cars, on the this, on the that. But we coming up with we inventing all this stuff, right? But they some kind of way find out a way to get kind of like a monopoly and then work you to the grave for a pittance. And that pittance is getting smaller and smaller. Inflation is going up, prices, and taxes. While the value of your dollar is going, so-called dollar is going down. That's robbery. Right there. You got not only outsourcing, taking the factory we built. Like I say, a lot of that stuff is based on stuff we invented anyway. Now you got a car factory. Somebody invented the car. The real McCoy, the this, the that, the third, the Patterson. Yeah, but then they start talking about Ford, and this person and that person. And you don't hear no more about the Elijah McCoy and the Pattersons and da-da-da-da-da. Right? But we still work for their company. Built it up. Made in America. That sold around the world because we stood by our product. The product stood up on its own. You didn't need to advertise. It advertised for you. Now they outsourced the company, the factory, because they didn't want to pay us. The unionized people who had to unionize to get better workplace conditions and whatnot. Severance pay, retirement packages, all that kind of stuff. Instead of give us what we deserve, they outsourced a lot of Asian companies and whatnot that have sweatbox condition where put their people in slavery, right? Slavery, where they got to put the nets outside because they trying to commit suicide because the people won't let them go and come freely to the factory and go take care of family and go with their people. They got them locked up in what they call the sweatshops. So they tell us. Now, so they go to the factory that we built. Now, no factories, no jobs, blight. Places like Detroit, places like that. Now the crime is out of necessity, but the resources are there. But they have their agents, whether it be a police or a park ranger and all this kind of stuff, where you go and try to do something, you can't do that. Or you can't get no salmon out the Hudson River. Or you can't get no this or trout or whatever in the Hudson River. You can't get no bear. I need a coat for the renter. No, you can't kill no animal. This animal endangered species, all this kind of shit. So now you can't do shit on your own fucking land. And these motherfuckers got control of every port, the waterway, all what they call it, the land of milk and honey, the bounty, the bounteous, the plentiful. They got control and will sit and watch you starve and die of disease. And living better than a lot of emperors in the past and whatnot. Hands so soft. Don't have to walk goddamn an eighth of a fucking mile for shit. And the majority of the world is suffering. Now, you also got downsizing. Downsizing is when we had the factory and things we still have. I worked at a fast food joint. And in that joint, when I got there, I had to do my job. It was supposed to be a man right here doing that. Supposed to be one more person right here doing that. Now that's 1, 2, 3. Then they call it bump and slide. I had to go over here, and that's 4. I had to go over here. There's 5 checks supposed to went out that week. Not only I get 1 check, the one thing I was supposed to be doing here, I'm not getting paid for that. And I got to bump and slide to the grill. I forgot to name that motherfucker, but the motherfucker that put the order together into the bag and set it right there. That's all they do. From the sandwich man who got his shit off the grill or wherever it came from. Somebody might come for the salad bar. You had a bun man. You had a fry man. Ain't no bun man. Ain't no fry man. Ain't that arrangement man right there. There's 3 people already can't get paid. And me and the grill man, he got to run to the back. To do shit the man in the back probably be doing, watching this and all that. Now I got to go over here, boy. He might have to go out there and fuck with a toilet or something. Wash his hand real, because it's a rush out there. Wash his hand real fast. Hopefully got some soap in the bathroom. And run back on the grill and handle people meat. And while he gone, I got to bump and slide. To flip them things, flip them burgers, make them sandwiches. And we moving like, I'm moving faster than it. I'm moving faster. I'm just doing this to show y'all. I'm moving like a motherfucker. Now, downsizing, outsourcing, these are the type of things they did to undermine the legitimate advancement of the people. The legal, legitimate advancement of the people financially. Then unleash the police force on us to stalk, to spy, to be agent saboteurs and provocateurs, and wait to catch somebody stealing a grape off a tree. Up, you're going to jail. Get a chicken out the chicken coop, a hen out the chicken coop. You going to jail. You start doing that. Now, why the police trying to get union trying to get a raise and they severance pay, going through the same thing we going through. And instead of refusing to carry out a lot of these directives, right? They put a cover over their own heart and deafen their ears to their own heart and came out here against us like apex predators. And that's what's going on. So the smart thing to do, no matter how gangster your daddy, your uncle, your big brother, your big cousin, granddad and all them was, the smart thing to do at that point, because it's more to it than that, was to first of all, common sense tell me that, yeah, this older guy that got this reputation, whoever they are, and matter of fact, a lot of them in Hollywood, it was glamorized. But when you read accurate accounts, it wasn't all that glamorous to be like that. They say Al Capone died in prison of syphilis or something like that, right? And they got him on some white collar job. They couldn't convict him on a lot of stuff, but they got him on white collar tax evasion, I think. Ended up dying in jail for syphilis. And so it's a lot of stuff. Looking at TV, the bang, the bar, the woo woo woo, and all the, and then they show the little nightlife and the fine girl and the man on the cigar and the nice suit and stuff. And you say, I want to be a gangster, you know. And don't realize that what's happening now in the 80s, and it's just gonna get worse in the 90s. Come Y2K, I'm talking about, man, I don't even understand how a lot of guys born in 2000, 2005, 2010 end up the way they are. I don't see how. Because we saw a way out. In the 70s and the 80s, you saw with that Mickey Roy the pimp, Mickey Roy say, see your way out before you go in. If you don't see your way out, don't go in. We saw a way out. But when it got to the point you can't see a way out, what you going in for? And that's how it became. So I was one of the few that knew in the 80s, especially with my experience, my personal experience of being overlooked when it came down to instilling, imparting skills in me, laying tile, being a car auto mechanic, all that kind of stuff. They skipped. They didn't know how to give me shit. And I was a straight A fucking student, and I was top tier when it come down to conduct. I was a perfect vessel for you just pour all that stuff and they overlook. And my parents had a lot of relatives that were military or police. My father was military. His father was military. So, and my grandmother's other husband, not my grandfather, my maternal grandmother's other husband, he was military. So I noticed that they kept me around, always around somebody that was mainly military and some police. And by the time I got like 18, I hear my mother telling my brother, Mac 10, Jamil going to the military. And I'm like, where'd that come from? That's the same lady who wouldn't put me in martial art class when I told her politely when I was like 4 years old. And she laughed and said it was too expensive. I believed her. I didn't know people like Sensei Rennie would teach you for free. Who's probably Grandmaster now. Sensei Lorenzo Whitehead had a team called Ghetto Fighters. The one who became my first real formal teacher, Sensei Jerry Denson, was a ghetto fighter. 8th Dan. Jerry Denson, 8th Dan. He was a ghetto fighter. Nisi-Go Ju system. Frank Ruiz, Nisi-Go Ju system. I learned that from him after I had hit like 30. About 30. Yep. When I was in that Mitsubishi Mirage, I was 30. The first class I went to, Sensei Jerry, was on 46 and 441. Mur had a little shop in there. And it was a little section she allowed us to use. Hatapusha Iskatani Nitakomi, her children were in that class, as well as some other people. That was my start, like 2003, 03, 04, right? And my whole childhood, everything was natural. Nobody's taught me how to shoot a gun, but I never shot an innocent bystander. Nobody broke down the fight game to me, but I never lost a real fight. When you talking about play, where you can't hit for real, you can tackle a little bit. We ain't talking about that. We talking about really trying to take a bitch head off. Trying to kick a nigga rib cage off. That kind of shit. I never lost a fight. And most of my fights ended just like that. Before they knew that I really was gonna fight back, it was over. Unless they wanted to really get fucked up. And that little pause, like you see Mike Tyson stand over like that, that little pause I have at the end, you know, because I do gotta get, I'm in his guard, I'm right up on him. You know, he might clip me up or whatever. So I gotta see that they have become now non-combatant. So, thank God for that. So I had a lot of common sense. You couple that with a little natural ability, because I didn't have people, they didn't train me. I did 1 year football. It was like a walk-on. I ain't get no specialized running through the cones and all this kind of stuff, plyometrics and all. I ain't get that. We ran around the field, we ran plays. They gave me a position. I did that. I didn't come back. Got in high school, they pulled me in. Nope, too big now. See, I heard about all these niggas, Dick Buckers and all these mother Steve Barkowski, all these mother Dan Marino knees shot. I ain't going through that. And for grown folk, that ain't that no. No. College, same way. I went to West Georgia College, West Georgia University now, Carrollton, Georgia. Everywhere I go, the coaches want me to play football, and there's always somebody out the military popping up out of nowhere. Different branches of the military trying to get me in. And as I went through what I went through in the streets, and a little buzz went around, the specialty of the person started to escalate. That came to me. Because why? I am displaying the skills of a person that had been trained in that branch. So we go from just Army, you know, because my father was Army, my grandfather was Army, you know, shit like that, to now you got SEALs and Marines. Then it might be a SEAL and Marine, but they talking about Delta Force, Black Op. To the point I actually had a Black Op in my face, which they usually don't do. 99.9% of the time, they ain't gonna tell nobody that shit. If you don't know, you won't know. Black Op in my face telling me he Black Op. I'm at the age where I can still enlist. And they're yeah, come on. I'm still in my 20s. We ain't even started locking it down yet. We still in the 90s. I'm in my 20s. It's based on what I've been doing. Putting that thing together on a dime. Nigga come slap me right now. Psh, before 20 minutes pass, 15 minutes, I would have an organized force with orders. A lot of niggas older than me. More experienced than me. We ain't talking about no flunkies and shit. We talking about some real niggas. But they can't overlook the sharpness, the wisdom of that plan that came before they can calm down and get their mind right. We got a whole, and nigga, and before they know it, they done thought about everything and troubleshooting. They like, let's go do that. And sometimes nigga be like, hey, nah. They be like, no, don't do that. Them crackers will give you forever. But then in the plan, I got things in place because we didn't have all the shit we got now. Cell phone, the mounted cameras on all the 4 ways and shit, drones flying and that. No, all we had was the eye in the sky. And they hardly ever go there to solve a lot of crime. But they call it satellite. But we ain't have all this shit, all the Ring doorbell cameras from house to house, block to block, the block to block. People riding around with cell phone camera. Some people will chase your ass and be filming you. Ooh, y'all saw that? And that'll help us, police solve a case. Police got all kind of shit. They got super fast cars now, falling behind the don't culture. So they had to have something to do, because we got shit out there. Boom, zing. So now they got that, right? Then they just passed the law. If you go past 100 miles or 100 and better or past 100, that's a felony. They can lock your ass up on the spot. Fuck a ticket, you going to jail. Slow that shit down. Now all that shit you got in the hood ain't doing you no good unless you want to go to the motherfucking jail. So you ain't have all that. See? And on top of all that shit, most time a nigga came, like this man just walked past, just ran past you like that. And I ain't hear him till he got about right there. Most time nigga surprised me or ran up on me, but it was over. Before I even know what's going on myself. So I can't put that in boxing. We talk about bad intentions. I can't even put the bad, I can't put them through the torture chamber. You know, I can't come with all this DV. It's done, it's a done deal. It's overkill now. You know, and I could be freed up to see who else they might be with, and you know, I might want to pat him down, see if he got a pistol on. I don't want him to have that when he come out this I done knocked him out. I don't know how long he gonna last. Things like that. So now, the industry, the film industry and the rap industry appeal to the poor white trash, brown pride, and black power, saying if you ain't been, I sound a guy by the age of Lil Bow Wow was back in 1995. How old was Bow Wow in 95? Crisscross. You had ABC. That's another bad creation. You had New Kids on the Block, I think. You had them, but it was somebody else I was trying to say. ABC, Crisscross under Jermaine Dupri. You had a lot of young. Now, how the average person that they are influencing because they see, oh, they made it, and they on the video channel, and all the youngsters, they really into that because that's somebody they can relate to. Now, they putting pen to paper, they freestyle battling in school and all that. Then somebody come tell them reading, writing, and arithmetic, you know, all this exemplary behavior in school and whatnot, and at home and all that, and homework and all that, that's not enough. You got to go to prison for murder to live your dream. To say, to choose a year like 1989. 89. A lot of little kids identify with Bushwick Bill because he was big, he was grown, but he was low to the flow like this. So right there, well, I wanted to be a rapper. You know, I like Bushwick Bill. You know, Eazy-E was short, and Sign had a little baby voice, like a baby face. So I like Eazy-E, right? People like that, and they saying, well, you know, you got to go to jail. How is this person? Think about this. Juveniles, when they first start saying it, juveniles probably get, if it's a first time offense, they probably won't get that much time. Might not get none at all if you pull it off right. That's poison in the mind of the youth. Not only that, you are fomenting war, civil, internecine strife. Right? Because you telling this man if he kills a person that look just like him, a lot of times that's how it go down. Or kill a police officer. Because you're so bad. Right? Now, also, let's look at this. The Epstein files were just submitted with much of it redacted, 500-something pages redacted. Now, what we do know, through good old-fashioned police work, that many serial killers, people that abduct humans, human traffickers, they will enlist young people to go out in their own communities and lure other people, whoever they can get, to a certain spot where the human traffickers can get their hands on it. They had one in like Texas, I think, who used to like to torture his victims. Might have sex with them, whether they dead or alive, all this kind of crazy stuff. And guys gave first-hand accounts of how they helped. They're young, they're getting some money, $150, $250 or something, and they knowingly lured other children their age or whatnot, knowing what's gonna happen, because they wanted the money. So not only we look at the pipeline to prison, we talk about that all the time. They want free slave labels. It's pipeline to prison. No. How about the true murderers and killers? A lot of them on that Epstein list that do adrenochrome farming and stuff like that. Organ harvesting for sale on the black market. I made a point before, if you go online, a human body is about $25,000. If you can deliver dead or alive, I think, fresh dead, you can preserve it, don't decompose, or alive. But think about it. If somebody got money, they need that liver, that heart, organ, and if you know anything about transplant, they tend to try to look for a type that the body of the needy host won't reject. Therefore, that type will tend to fetch a larger price. And if that man got the money and he that desperate to live, he might take that $25,000 offer for a whole body and say, well, if you get me such and such as liver, I'll give you $175,000. Let's talk about that. That's the side they don't hardly talk about. Them the people, them officers dive in front of a bullet and hope they badge stop it. To keep them alive working in the hospitals. They the main ones who got the wherewithal to pull it off. So you gotta look at that. Desensitizing the children to violence. Grand Theft Auto. What's the other one? Call of Duty. Before the games got that advanced, them parents were screaming bloody murder. Stop putting these video games out, the cartoons. Oh, they were talking about Tom and Jerry. Larry, Curly, Moe, Three Stooges. It's desensitizing. They violent. They prone to be more violent. Yeah. Now, look at that part. I always cite Wayne Williams. Motherfuckers say that's old and you damn lie. It hit the media in the 80s. Don't get caught up in the fact we drawing attention on Puffy or Epstein or Wayne Bertram Williams. Remember, when we talk about this one person, that person is working within a network of people that they never mention their names. And more than likely they didn't get locked up. Because they're going to announce it when you got a charge like that. Okay, you got a certain somebody else. Okay, then they'll put it on news. Okay, we found an accomplice to Wayne Williams. And he's been held in such and such county jail. He's gonna be tried, he's convicted, he's charged, alleged with die. They'll tell you. Why you ain't hearing about this shit? Why the Epstein files got 500-something pages that were in the hands of who we trust to be our police officers? Right? Primarily. That's the first person. Don't nobody else but a victim and an eyewitness, or somebody who just stumbled just before they can come pick that body up or whatever would happen. And a professional law enforcement, the one who come down, forensics team and all that, the meat wagon, they might send a little mortician van out there, whatever. Those are the only people that handle that case. They start cordoning it off and start fingerprinting, putting down cones if it's bullet shell, all that stuff they do. They're the only one got the intel. The victim probably knows something, dead or alive, and of course the culprits, the perpetrators. Eyewitnesses, you might have some people who were in the conspiratorial stage, who might know something, overhearing the conspiracy. You might know people who know but don't realize it's pertinent to the case. So when the investigators start doing the investigation, the mama might know something. But who? They don't know who mama, because they don't know the person. See? So they're trying to find clues to even go to people who would help them if they only knew that their child, a brother, or a husband, or somebody was involved. But they don't know yet. So now, think about that when you think about the industry telling us, especially in the 90s. And I always say, when me and Slim Zo drop, claim to fame, this the Wick, Eastwick motherfucker, and they ain't never got for like that. The movie Juice had not been put out. South Central had not been put out. Boys in the Hood had not been put out. Menace to Society had not been put out. Them some of the first movies that was put out that reflected what we was going through in our lifetime. Our peer group. There was some of the first movies that got, and what I said about they ain't never got for like that. That was one of the very few songs out that was more toward a movie than a damn rap song. I took them niggas on a tour of the streets, riding with some real niggas, doing real things. MIATL. Right? beating the war drums. There was messages in that. Beating the war drums as well. Messages in that. It was hard for the average rapper signed to a label already in 1991. The only person who was really rapping who ran a label at that point was like KRS-One, who had went more positive with edutainment and all that, and Luke Skywalker, who was doing 135 beats per minute party. Right? Oh, Eazy-E. Eazy-E about the only one that was a CEO, because Jay Prince don't be on the record all like that. Eazy-E was the only one that was a CEO. He pretty much, we could say, like the godfather of the so-called gangster rap. When you look at, you put Eazy-E and then Kool G Rap. Kool G Rap was on Cold Chillin' label as an artist. Eazy-E was the CEO. Right? But if you want to throw Kool G Rap in there, it's cool too. Right? But you ain't got too many people before that most people in America knew about. Right? Mob Style talk about they was doing this and that, but we knew about Eazy-E, Ruthless Records, Kool G Rap on Cold Chillin' when he started making his solo album. Right? And then everybody else followed. Pretty much, that's pretty much how it was. Now in 91, and I don't count Q with his independent stuff when he left MDFD, because he already out on. I'm counting him when I holler out Eazy-E. But since Eazy the CEO and the rapper, he was doing that before Q. Q was just artist on Ruthless. He became a CEO and a rapper later. So come 91, though he is doing that. But you got Q, Eazy-E. That shit I put down, and that's another thing. They representing LA, California. See, Kool G Rap from like Corona, Queens. We in Atlanta, the hardest thing we got is Shadi. Ain't no ATL hard boy when we drop that shit. Don't even say it. Ain't no Rico Wade, Dungeon Family, Good and Mob, Outkast thing. We don't know nothing about that. And we in Atlanta. You looking at who was raised by and raised up into eventually down by law. Was in Eastwick living on the top before I even met Mike Murphy on Tilson. I had already lived on the top of Eastwick, went to Columbia Elementary with Derek DeAnthony Brown, Scooby. With Big Nard, Queen City, DeAndre Stephen brother, right? From like this. Now 91 we dropped that. They ain't never got Gaffer like that. With that chopper style and ain't nobody, nigga, you ask me, most motherfuckers when they came out, they either try to sound like Spice One or Das Effects. Cause them the first people who made it to wax with signed contract with a record label that got distribution, radio players and whatnot, and shows with people like Digital Underground, stuff like that. That was Das Effects, Spice One, and all of them came after me and Slim Zo dropped that shit in June 91. I just graduated from Columbia. Slim got another year to do in Columbia, unless he went to open campus or something. Slim got another year in Columbia. I graduated, went to West Georgia. Before I went to West Georgia College, after graduation, we sat down. I already had Gaffer like that written already, right? Behind some shit. Tell you what triggered it. Grandpa Villa, Renee, right? Grandpa Villa with a Renee Poke Chop, them Tab used to be riding there. Some shit went down. I ain't gonna get into the details. And I took that energy and channeled that shit into that. Beating the war drum. Once again. Now me and my partner, we under YBI South. We got a nigga from Michigan on the block, just passed away. We just buried him. His family just buried him. Nigga from Michigan on the block. We YBI South. We under that. So when that shit fell through, we still sour about that. But then over on the west side, some more shit happened. So I took all that. I had to go to school. And word got around fast. Cause we ain't too far from where I used to stay anyway. And pretty much, we pretty much running shit. If it ain't Eastwick, Decatur, Atlanta, it's down by law. That's all you hearing. You know, little 5%, you might hear about some other shit that come to mind. Then you got different shit like Project C, talk about Techwood Home. You know what I'm saying? But them and down by law might well be like this. Might as well. It's too much respect between them two to even try to pit them against each other. Even though nigga will see you. Nigga, you know. But for real though, in the 80s and the 90s, nobody. Now they might fade you if you invite them, call them out to a fade, square off in the fade, yeah. If they believe you gonna keep it real, not try to jump a nigga and all this shit, pull out guns, yeah, nigga might give you a fade. But when you talking about going straight up gang warfare, like nigga ain't want to see down below. And Eastwick was one of the only goddamn places that was stand up down below. Not the only, but one of them. Like Techwood said, pull out there. If they want to go, if East Lake Meadow want to go with Techwood, we know. But a lot of times it ain't gonna happen like that because there's too much love somewhere on the other side. They gonna round table that thing, and then niggas just gonna start dropping off to the point you probably gonna have to do a one-on-one. Cause that shit wasn't all that, you know how we used to be, let it ride, y'all. Let that ride, y'all. You know, we start going all that. You know. So y'all wanna do a one-on-one? You still got something on your chest, y'all? We going and all that. And we'll stand around and make sure it's just that. And that's when it get real good. Because if anybody do that most time, everybody be on his ass. Cause one thing we be happy about, we had more sense than a lot of other major cities. One thing we happy about, we ain't gotta go to jail. Cause you talking about by now, they done made an example about too many niggas. That's why all the older niggas I'm talking about was telling us what they was telling us. See, it's certain things about them motherfuckers. I used to try to get my shit straight from the streets. I didn't go sit down and look at no documentary. I want to hear straight from a nigga mouth. You said you from Chi-Town? Okay, tell me. You from Motown? I want to hear what you got to say. And every time I meet one, I want it from you. I'm around New Yorkers. Tell me about this rap shit. Right? I want to hear about DJ Mario, Disco King. I want to hear about shit like that. The shit that led up to what we think we know about that's in our face. See? Now, 91, we dropped that. Next thing you know, the movie's coming out. Ice Cube ain't hardly went back. I mean, he'll make some music, but he definitely got into the movies. And ain't looked back since. Same thing with 50, another good writer and recording artist. He got it. Matter of fact, somebody told me, insider told me, he tried to kind of blackball him in the music. But he popped up over here, one door closed, another open. Look at it when it come to what he doing, like television. I don't know about movie, film, but television, writing and all the script writing. Boom. Now, but look, what that Power Empire shit like that? I don't really be watching this shit. I be hearing about the shit. I don't even do a lot of research on shit because I got so much shit I got to pay attention to. But now, that's the direction that shit went. But when we dropped that, you ain't had too many. Baby Too Loud Crew had just came out in like 9-0. That first album. The second album, well, actually, put it like this. Live from Saturn and Poison's Mentality, neither of those two came out. And eventually, that CEO behind Live from Saturn, his brother 2 years later, his brother, as a CEO of a different company, was gonna pick me up. But then that next year, in '94, I went to jail and they went to jail. So the Live for Saturn CEO and his brother went to jail in '94. I went to jail in '94. They did about 19 years. And that was the beginning of my shit, with false police affidavit being filed and kangaroo court cases where the Magi knows that the police officer's lying, and even correction officers sometimes. They'll tell him stuff like, lose that jacket, or don't bring him, I'm on the catwalk. At the county, done bust over on the Bluebird from like Stockade or TGK Metro West, but I'm on the catwalk, never go in the courtroom. Because they telling the CEO, don't pull him. They doing stuff like that. So you got the COs, arresting officers and whatnot, sometimes a detective, right? And the Magi, arresting Inquisition's agent of Rome, my mistake. Because I ain't vote nobody in office to do what they doing. Now, telling the youth, the film industry, telling the youth, the music industry, especially in magazines, when you start reading and listening, it's usually in the media when you're hearing this. They don't want to sign Wendy Day. Wendy Day was a very famous agent. I think she was like an agent more primarily. Wendy Day got a lot of people better deals and signed and all this kind of stuff. Now, from these sources, you starting to hear that they don't want anybody. Basically what they're saying is this: if you ain't stupid, if you're not a bumbling fool, if you're not a nincompoop, we don't want you. Because if anybody, any nigga in his right mind know, the main part about being a gangster is not getting caught and not going to jail. Jail is not a goal, bro. Jail ain't shit. Anybody in their right mind don't want to be in there. You got some people who so fed up with how it's ran out here, they'll rather be in there. I'm not one. I just had to deal with this shit. I don't like jail. I don't like it. And it's more likely I'm gonna hurt somebody in there than out here. Because I can ignore a lot of stuff. I can walk away. I can not engage with certain people. When it get to the point, the person stalking me. See? I've been trained from a child how to move. MGT, FOI, NOI. You know? Shit like that. Little me might be a Boy Scout, something me might be a damn parent teacher association, something. They tell you all the time how to move. Right? So it's a good chance that I can deal with somebody following me around and all that, but all that stuff, you talk about Yellow Beezy is being accused of killing Mo 3. And it came out, according to what they say, allegations say, Yellow Beezy actually did know Mo 3. They're supposed to have been all right at one point. Yellow Beezy say he didn't know him. I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, no, he didn't know. He know the rapper because his music, but he didn't know him personally. He didn't have dealings with him. But they're saying in the media, allegations are saying that he did know him personally, and they were like all right, and they fell out. And they're saying that he put a hit. Yellow Beezy put a hit on Mo 3 head. So all that aside, because that might be lies. But for the sake of argument, just to make a point, what if that was true? Let's not focus on the highway hit. Let's not focus on the contracting stage of, oh, I'm going to go to this person and give him some money or promise him some money, however that go. If you just do that, let's go back to Mo 3 and Yellow Beezy was all right. Why is it that we all right and it's so easy for us not to be all right? What's up with that? Why is it so easy? As bad as we need somebody out here who gonna play their part and stay in their damn lane, where we can depend on them, how they like to use this term these days, interdependent. No, not interdependent. What they call that job? Codependent. They like to say codependent. Well, look, if we do anything as a collective, I depend on everybody, like a football team. I want the cornerback in. I want the quarterback in. I want the goddamn center, the center on offense. I want the centering. Okay? And whatnot. Fullback, halfback, tailback, all that shit. Everybody need to run their route and do their thing. OL, DL, defensive line, offensive line. I want to see some offensive linemanship. I want to see some defensive linemanship. I want to see some defensive backship. Play your part. We need each other. Most of these people, when it come down to gunplay and all kind of crap involved, I don't even want to say some of this stuff. Most people watch sports. And that's when you display the common sense, the intelligence and all that. Because you screaming at the TV about how LeBron ain't and the Kobe ain't. Why don't you do it in your own life? Because LeBron and Kobe, they still in the league. When Kobe was alive, getting money. Why in the hell you niggas inherit, like Orlando and places like this? You know, you inherit a multi-million-dollar spot that already took a hit because the people before you got it hot. But it's still a multi-million-dollar spot you inherit before you can even really get to the point like a Pee Wee Kirkland and get out the damn game for good. And don't need to do no crime. You niggas, and niggas dying, 12, 14 years old. You know your ass, I don't care how much dirt you did within 6 months, 8 months, you just came off the porch. 2 years, even 3, 4 years. You just now kind of feeling it, getting it, but the money rushed in. And not knowing exactly how to act, it's okay to act grown, you should act grown and be grown and mature and all that, but then when it's time to have some common sense and say, I'm in enough trouble as it is. Just from selling stuff, especially these days. Just for selling stuff, this used to be a gentleman's game. The D game used to get you out of splacking on stealing cars. Joy riding, stolen cars, stealing cars and all kind of stuff. Carjacking, burglary. What's some of the worst things? Maybe in a robbery, armed robbery, whatever, you willing to kill somebody, and probably have to because somebody tried to fight back, you killed them, but you robbed them. You know, all that stuff. Gang banging. Just violence. Ain't nobody getting paid. How you gonna pay your dues? Then now it's some drugs. But you got that gang bang, you got to steal gang, you got to get, come on, man, it don't mix. I done seen so many waves after wave. Okay, they knocked off this clip. Hole wide open. You might have some outsider come in, but usually the ones who was down, putting in work on the lower level and whatnot, soon niggas gonna realize, well, I don't want to go around because they got, they pretty much still there. Now it's such and such. But before you know it, within that clique, you might have some outside bumping here with some outside too, but within that clique is some backstabbing. Somebody, a body drop. Might be more than one. Might be at somebody's mama house, at somebody's wake, at somebody's funeral. I mean, come on, man. See, losing sight of what's really gangster. Now, a lot of that stuff is gangster technically when you isolate it and see, oh yeah, especially now you got the Ring doorbell camera and stuff and the Facebook. Somebody might have went Facebook Live and yeah, you did that like a G. But now where'd that put you at? And who was that to you? They don't have to be. Everybody's blood is sacred. Everybody's property is sacred. That's Prophet Muhammad, Ibn Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But that's your third cousin. That's your fifth cousin. You run the streets and don't be away with your family like you should be, that you don't even know how much of your family is really around. So now this fuck nigga, this old pussy nigga, and then all them are family. A good majority, know, and you don't even know it. Cause you ain't slowed down enough to have some. Don't act like you got no have some sense. Employ the sense, the good sense God did. You got it. That God gave you. See. So I was walking out this building right here saying how I truly believe. Telling you now, they had designs against Easy-E already. Easy-E, the children of his mother, the mother of his children, didn't have HIV or AIDS. His children didn't have HIV or AIDS, but something took his life and they claimed it was AIDS. But he having sex with this woman still. And if it's at that stage to take him out, why doesn't she have it? Nor does his children. Easy-E was on top of the game. Had him on their knees like Percy Miller about to do in a minute. But not just yet. Percy Miller like, he bought there. Because Easy dropped the 9-5 when Craig Mack came out there and said, you won't be around next year, my rap too severe. Kicking mad flavor in your ear. Puffy, with all that blood on his hands according to the allegations. Put Craig Mack. And he put Junior FOI. Message to the black man, black peace be upon the one. Yeah, Junior FOI. Junior Mafia out there. And Biggie Small, right? Yeah. Put them out there, right? Puffy is the one that's gonna do what them boys say. He's the one told them boys, y'all gonna respect me and Jerry Heller. Whatever I come to the table with, or I'm gonna get this money. You either gonna get down with it or whatever, or I'm gonna get some money. It's a free trade, it's a free open market, it's a free, what they call that? Free market, free trade, supposedly. They trying to run a monopoly, they trying to be mob. Easy, told them, nigga, I'm mob. I want to say it. I don't want to say it. I don't say the wrong thing. But it's crippin'. I started to say something more specific, but that might not be his set. Easy Bang represent a real set. And this set came up out of like Black Panther like type stuff, which came out of like Nation of Islam's, like what came up out of like Marcus God, and what came from tribes and chiefs and Indians and all that kind of stuff. The ones who didn't sign no treaty. Like Chief Rod going in heavily on Chief Rod Hayes. 99.99999% of the real ones on what they call the United States of America did not sign NAM treaty. We're now European. Now, so Puffy pops out of nowhere, damn near, as a CEO, a rapper, and a company, like a lot like Eazy. Eazy got to die. And they say Puffy got some shit that was at that part of that paper or bullshit. They saying that shit killed Whitney Houston. And they saying she died of some other. They said, man, that's that same shit. Bobby Christine, that same shit. Can produce side effects that look like would line up with the list of side effects if you got some type of advanced HIV or AIDS, pneumonia and stuff like that. Because a lot of times HIV don't kill you. It breaks your immune system down so that you can die from something that you can cure it. It's immunodeficiency. The immune system would fight off shit. So now they'll say AIDS, but really it had to be pneumonia. It had to be something. So now this same shit, from that same shit that they got with the 500 some pages missing, but they supposed to submitted it. Meantime, they cut the lights off in Venezuela. Randomly got Maduro and his wife, put the vice president, let them right, boom, right, and made a big old fire right the same around 4th of July. While you still want to see some more fireworks, look over in Venezuela. Kaboom, ooh. And all the Venezuelans who were starved out and wouldn't join the military and police force and all that and had to leave the country. Hey, so now all the attention going over there. But they just supposedly submitted the Epstein file. Why is always something drawing attention away from the Epstein file? Now, it took too long to say what I did say, so I gotta wrap it up. Cause I wanna rap it. I ain't gotta do shit. I don't want that job too long. Plus I gotta upload. So, I said what I said, and I ain't get to say all, but I don't want it that long. But that's decent. That's decent. Cause at least I got some parts in there where I'm telling them our youth are our future. That's how the human species work. The most animal species like that. Our youth, plant life too. Them seeds, them pods, drop. That's the future of the planet. Them seeds need to germinate in good soil, sunlight, hydrated, and other conditions, and come up before the big ones go down. Same thing with us. We got to connect with these young people, and we have to impart in them as much as we possibly can. I personally believe karma will visit each individual that slacks in that area, especially for nefarious reasons. So that's one point that really, a theme was really throughout that whole thing was going on that. And also low-key an apology to the youth out there and an explanation of why we collectively failed, you guys. And we did. We should have prepared a better world for y'all. And the best thing I can do is advise you not to follow in my footsteps. You know, listen to some wisdom, listen to me telling you, man, you know, stuff like that. That's the least I could do. Cause a person like me will influence somebody. So I need to be careful if it's to the right or to the wrong. You know, be responsible for that, which I put out to the world. Because I know the youth are very impressionable. They're very hungry for this information. They really, it's just like being a boxing coach, a karate teacher or something. They trusted me to equip them because they believe. Especially maybe I competed, I got some championships and whatever, some rank, black belt stuff, whatever. Golden gloves, something. They trusted me to give them that insight and to stick with them and know when to say, okay, you ready to go in, or no, not yet. And what I want you to do, I want you to do this, I want you to do that, and they trust in me. Empty vessel. And that's all us. All us that got some age and experience, and we walk around. Remember, we were young too. And you look at a 2-year-old, 3-year-old that's still crawling. First thing they trying to do is walk. They trying to talk. They trying to do everything they want. They aspire to be like you. Everything is fascinating. And we had to tell them, don't touch that socket right there at all. That wall socket with that electric charge coming. But they see you doing it all the time. You know? So life is like that. And it never ceases to be like that for a long, long time. Even when they get up, voice deep, schlong longer than yours, foot bigger than yours, got more children than you, you still need to be, because this and this, these are the last two things to fully develop. Matter of fact, this never fully developed. We seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. And this is hard to mature this here. The seat of emotions, the heart. The heart can be the reason why everything went awry. Everything went because not enough control and knowing when to let the heart lead and when to let the heart take the back seat. Our wisdom, our experiences helps the youth to get to the point where they could be more like us, because we getting to be less and less like we came to be at the apex, or our what they call that, the prime of our life. We start to decline. We gonna need more and more help. We don't even know where it's coming from. And it's bad that convalescent homes and assisted living facilities are more common. When we was coming up, shit, the old people been in a damn house that they built, still there. Some of them can't even walk, can't even get out the bed, and can't hardly get up out the seat. But it was a time that those right around their age and right in that next generation saw them do countless of things and help build up the wealth in the family, and they got enough there to pass on to the many generations down the line. And especially in the 80s, in the 90s, that's why I went into Alpo, niggas for life. I meant to do something with that, but it's too much information trying to get out at one time. I know that, but I be talking here for 10 hours. I need to start writing it. Oh Lord, I'm gonna give myself a big job, and I'm not ready to do that right now because there's a lot of running around, a lot of things I need to do, a lot of people to see, the whole lot of getting to get. See, I see ya. So now I'm gonna close this out. Say Islam MOORS, active MOORS, more active. I don't know what letter this would be because it's been a while since I did this. But this in the active MOORS, more active series. I'm gonna close this out right now.